First question I've got to ask you, because I confess I've never really known, difference between a vegan and a vegetarian.
Okay, a vegan does not eat any animal products or does not use any animal products in clothing, food, cosmetics, etc. A vegetarian will just not eat meat and fish.
You are a vegan, are you?
I'm a vegan, yes.
And all the people who work for the Vegan Society, do they have to pass a test to prove that they are vegans?
They don't have to pass a test, but we do expect them to be vegan because we live the vegan ethos and we want to show that people can live healthily and happily as a vegan, and we want to outreach that to the world, so it makes sense that we're all vegan ourselves.
Now, when did you become a vegan?
Nearly 13 years ago. Yes, I was a vegetarian for 15 years and then I became a vegan.
Yeah. So what made you become a vegetarian? Because I'm assuming then that when you were brought up in Holland that your parents, did they feed you meat when you were young, did they? Meat?
Meat, yes, they did. They were not really into vegetarianism, but I cycled to school one day and I saw a truck going past with pigs and they were screaming and I felt really bad and sorry for the pigs. I was 12 years old and I felt that I shouldn't be eating them anymore. And that year I became vegetarian. My parents were very supportive. That was very fortunate. And then the following year I stopped eating fish. I believe they were fish. They were animals too. So I've been vegetarian for 15 years, and a lot of my friends then became vegetarian too. But it wasn't that very common in the 80s.
No.
I was the first in the family at school, and you have to kind of blaze the trail to some extent.
Because I was about to say, at sort of 12 and 13, we all developed interests and fads and things. And do you think your parents sat back and thought, well, you know, Jasmijn will grow out of this. She'll go back to eating meat and fish and things? No,
I think they were very supportive. They realised that I was genuine about this, and I really cared about animals. We lived with companion animals, and we were very passionate about protecting animals. And I think that is something they nurtured in us. Later, my sister became vegetarian, and my mother also became semi-vegetarian. So she's sympathetic to the idea, and I think they could actually see the logical, reasonable argument.
So were you a one-girl campaigner at school then? Were you putting the posters up and trying to get everybody else to it?
No, I wasn't campaigning at the time. It was hard enough to kind of survive as a vegetarian. There wasn't the information around that we have today, and we just had to kind of live our values, setting an example by being vegetarian. But more and more became accepted, I think. And when I went to university, I found out there are lots of vegetarians, and it's more and more common now. And I think veganism is now where vegetarian was back then is becoming much more accepted.
So when you'd made your choices and made your stand all those years ago, was it kind of difficult to find anything that you could actually eat? Because if there wasn't too much support for it, I'm kind of imagine you were a hungry girl.
Well, as a vegetarian, you still eat eggs and cheese, so that was actually the main kind of replacement of the meat. I never missed meat. I never really liked it anyway. I think I already had an inkling when I was 10, 11 that I didn't like the taste of it. So I didn't really miss it that much. But later, of course, when you become vegan, you think, what can you eat and where do you go? And it's actually much easier once you find out that there are substitutes available in shops. And now it's just getting much more easier in mainstream supermarkets.
Did people try and dissuade you from being a vegetarian because, as you say, you're in your sort of fairly early teens?
Certainly, yes. They thought that I was going to be unhealthy, that it was unnatural, and that I wasn't going to help the animals because what can one person achieve? And all these kind of arguments that you sometimes still hear, but I think you hear them less because people now know that protein can be found in plant-based sources. And I run half marathons and I did a triathlon this year, so you can live very, very healthily on a plant-based diet.
So when you were growing up, 12, 13, then there were no health problems at all? It didn't make any effect on you?
No. I am not the tallest Dutch person, as you might have noticed, but my parents are quite short, and I think that's just a genetic issue. That has nothing to do with my diet or anything. And there's a very small spell of anemia. I think that was an issue. But most girls suffer from anemia in their early teens, and that passes, and that's okay. I think it's quite normal. So we just need to make sure we get vitamin B12, we get enough vitamin D. Those are the important vitamins that we need to look out for.
Yesterday you were at the Labour Party conference, and the Vegan Society were all poised to have a visit from their new leader, and it didn't happen. What went wrong?
We were there all day yesterday, and the day before, actually, we managed to very briefly speak to Jeremy Corbyn at the exhibitor meeting, and we launched our new campaign, the Grow Green campaign, which is a report asking the government to provide subsidies to farmers who wish to transition to change from livestock farming to crop farming, because it will help the environment, public health, etc. So very briefly, we had the chance to explain this campaign to Jeremy Corbyn on Sunday night. And he was about to visit yesterday, but unfortunately, it got a little bit too crowded around the stall, and I think he might come today to the stall to say hello.
I think when you say it got a bit crowded, we're probably talking about television cameras and all sorts, aren't we? Was that?
Yeah, we don't really
interest?
know what the reason was. Something had come up, so unfortunately he couldn't make it yesterday.
Now, what about the Shadow Minister of Agriculture he appointed to his cabinet? Has she been to see you?
Not yet, she's been too busy, but I spoke to her last night. She was hosting the Labour Animal Welfare Society meeting. Kerry McCarthy is a very good minister on health and agriculture. She knows a lot about animal welfare issues, and I think she will do brilliantly in that job. It's an office that is really important for rural development, for farmers, and I think we need to make sure that we support her in that role. And I think this kind of campaign, we planned to be at the Labour Party conference back in January, so we had no idea how the general election would go, and her appointment was completely
And I mention her, of course, in case people don't know, she is a vegan, isn't she?
She is vegan, yes, yeah.
Do you think that, given that whatever your particular views and whatever the society's views are, there are still a huge number of people who eat meat and so on and so on and so on. And governments, particularly conservative governments, traditionally will back farmers. Is it not going to be very difficult for her to do her job, bearing in mind that she's going to have to go around farms and talk to people? Is she going to get into arguments with farmers about it, or is she going to put her own beliefs to one side?
She is a very sensible person, and she will not be picking any arguments with farmers. I think she, as much as anyone else, wants to help farmers to succeed and to maintain their livelihoods. But again, we need to look at farmers are everyone from crop farmers to growers and horticulturists, as well as agroforestry. So it's not just the livestock farmers. People always think that, and I think we need to look at all the different areas of farming and agriculture. And she will be supportive of that change, and she will look at it holistically, and this is what we're calling for as well. How can we reduce climate change emissions from livestock farming? How can we get the public health improved through eating less meat, etc. She will not be saying everyone needs to become vegan overnight, but she will be supporting these measures.
Will you be going to the Conservative Party conference in Manchester next week?
I will be going to a fringe meeting next Monday. It's again a fringe meeting on public health. I've been invited to attend there.
Will it be a harder sell for you as a society to a Conservative conference than it maybe would to any of the others, for that matter? I mean, I don't know. Did you go to UKIP and the Lib Dems as well?
We didn't. No, we didn't go actually. No. In previous years, we've been to Green Party conferences because it's actually cheaper to attend those conferences as well compared to, say, Lib Dems for Conservatives. It's £3,000 for charity to attend, which is too much.
That's a lot of money.
Yes.
So
we'll go to the fringe, and hopefully they'll be receptive to the public health message and better nutrition. I think there's no question about it. There's a lot of scientific evidence that eating a plant-based diet is much more healthy.
And I guess that from, as you say, from your point of view, so far as the Shadow Minister is concerned, you don't have to work too hard with her, do you? Given that you don't touch anything like this. I mean, if you were with friends and they're sitting down in a restaurant, they're eating meat, could you sit at the same table with them?
Certainly, yes. I still have family and friends who do eat meat, and I respect that. I'm not going to preach to them that they need to change their diet. They are respectful of me, and I think that's the way to interact with each other.
Is it difficult, though, to sit and watch them? I mean, are you not inside saying, don't you realise what you're doing? I don't agree with it.
There's a level of discomfort, yes. I wish people sometimes would see the same kind of suffering that I see, and the same level of effect on the environment, the kind of negative effects that livestock farming has on the environment. But it's a journey that people go on, and they are at different stages, so there's no point in telling people what to do. It's about educating them and then making an informed decision in their own time.
So there you are, it's a sunny day, you've gone to an event, you walk through, you get the smell, the waft of bacon and burgers and all that sort of thing. Is there never a twitchy moment you think I have to be strong and walk on?
No, it's actually not appealing to me at all. No.
Right. And what about Christmas lunch, turkey, things like that?
No, I just don't really like the taste and smell of meat. I guess I associated the two with animal suffering, and that's enough for me to not ever really desire that. I think cheese, that's been difficult, especially in the beginning, and it's something that most vegetarians who become vegan are thinking about. But there's now so many choices of vegan cheese that, again, you don't really need to miss anything.
So on over a typical day, what sort of food will you eat then?
Anything that is plant-based. So I usually eat muesli in the morning with blueberries, strawberries, any berries, fruit in the morning, and then I've lunch, soup, salads. I've got nice roasts, like vegan roasts that you do. In the evening, I do all sorts of stir fries and sort of kind of pies, savoury pies. So there's a lot of choice, and the Vegan Society's website has a lot of recipes and tips for inspiration.
How difficult is it if you're out now to find food that is okay to you? Because you will go into a restaurant, you'll flip through a menu and you'll see the little green blob on the side which says, I don't know whether it says vegetarian friendly or vegan friendly. You will obviously know which it is.
Yes, it's getting easier. Most restaurants will do a vegan option, and if they don't offer it on the menu, you speak to the chef. They're very happy to accommodate you, and it's very common nowadays to find something. There are more and more vegetarian vegan restaurants as well, where you can actually get a lot of choice. And here in Birmingham, in the West Midlands, it's increasing. I think it's getting better. Of course, there are other places like London where you have so much choice, you're really spoiled.
I'm just meat reduction, that's something, isn't it, that's very much on the agenda at the moment. What's that all about?
Well, I think more and more people are seeing the negative effects of animal farming, the suffering, the zoonoses, the diseases that can be transferred from animals to people, the kind of antibiotic resistance, the effects on climate, public health and obesity. They see all these arguments and think, actually, I want to take something seriously, and they eat less meat, which is a step in the right direction. Of course, we would like to see a world where no animals are exploited, but I think all in all, we need to move towards that direction because it's not sustainable. We're living on the Earth as if we have 5 planets and resources to last us for a lifetime, and we don't. We're actually running out of space and water and clean resources, and we need to be very precious about those resources.
And presumably you don't touch chocolate or milk or anything like that, do you?
There's a lot of chocolate that's milk dairy free nowadays as well, so that's all possible. You don't need to kind of deny any food. You can find pies, sweets, chocolate, ice cream, you name it, vegan cosmetics, toiletries, and toothpaste. It's all possible. Shoes.
So if putting the food side apart, in terms of products and things, whether it's for you personally or, as you say, like clothing and all the rest of it, do you go up and do you read the labels, the tiny print, before you buy anything at all? Yeah,
and what the Vegan Society does as well is have the vegan trademark, and we actually register products that comply with our standards, and they're quite rigorous. We need to check the manufacturer's raw ingredients, and once we find that they are actually vegan, we'll allow the company to use that trademark on their products. There are now over 18,000 products registered with the Vegan Society worldwide. It's not just the UK. And I think people find that hugely helpful because then at a glance you can see this is vegan. If you don't have the symbol, you do need to check sometimes.
65 million people in this country. I worked out about 5 million are of your persuasion. They are vegans or vegetarians. Do you ever feel when you look at that figure and think it's a small percentage, we're fighting a losing battle?
I feel it's growing. It's still a small percentage on the whole, but I think there's more and more interest now in healthy eating, in plant-based alternatives. If you look at the supermarket shelves for almond milk, soy milk, coconut milk, hemp milk, oat milk, it's just unbelievable how much choice there is these days. And I think people are actually quite conscious about their healthy eating habits, as we heard earlier as well. I think people are thinking about what to do and how to eat more fruit and veg, and I think that's a really, really good move into the right direction.
How much do schemes like the government's 5-a-day fruit and veg, do they resonate with people?
We've But from studies, it shows that most people don't even achieve 5 a day, and actually we should be eating 7 to 9, if not more, pieces of fruit and veg a day to really be healthy and reduce mortality by a couple of years. And I think there's still some way to go in terms of public education about healthy nutrition, and we really need to eat much more fruit and veg, which means basically filling your plate with that primarily, and grains, legumes, peas, lentils, chickpeas. Those are really healthy sources of protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals, and I think people could really improve that. And by being kind of aware of your meal planning at the beginning of the week or on the weekend, you think, what am I going to do this week? You can really set out a really nice meal plan for the rest of the week. If you're not so organized, then yeah, you are more likely to take the wrong choice. And I think it is really important that you think about it, and that's not just for vegans, vegetarians, but everyone.
When you see people with young child in pushchair, another one walking alongside, and they're with a mum and dad, and they're all munching away on burgers and things, do you long to go up to them and say, "Excuse me, but"?
Yeah, unfortunately that approach wouldn't work, but yes, of course it is sometimes a worry, I think, because the children are getting a very bad start in life, and while the parents may think that they are helping the children by keeping them quiet, they're actually setting the wrong example by encouraging this kind of behavior and nutrition.
And if your parents do that with you when you're very young, is that going to stay in you? Is it harder to break away from that?
It is very difficult, and again, new studies show that when you're even in the womb, you're actually already influenced by your mother's eating habits. So if your mother, if the pregnant mother is eating a lot of fruit and veg, the baby is much more likely to like that as well. But if the mother eats poorly, then again, the baby will also have more difficulties with eating fruit and veg. The other thing is that people really need to try to give the fruit and veg for multiple times, at least 7 or 9 times. And often they give up after 2 times. They think, oh, they don't like green peas, I won't give them anymore. But you really need to persist, and at some point they will just eat it and they won't question it anymore.
Do you have you over as your time? We must mention, by the way, because we're nearly out of time, 24th and 25th of October in Wolverhampton. Just tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, there's a big 2-day vegan festival organised by Midland's vegan campaigns. The Vegan Society is going to be part of it. We're going to do some talks there. There are going to be a range of campaigning organisations, companies that sell vegan products, talks, there will be entertainment, music. It draws in thousands of people in Wolverhampton, has done for many years. This year I think it's for the first time being held for over 2 days. That's really exciting because it shows again there's a growing interest in veganism, and people come from far afield. They come from Scotland, they come from Wales.
The message is there.
Yeah,